I don't know if the mindset's right. Like if you're tired now and you think that this
Yeah.
is the shot in the arm, I'm like, it's going to be the opposite.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
Jeff Herr, I don't know how many times you've been on the podcast, but we always get one more person listening to that than any other show. So you are a star on the pod. Welcome back.
Wow. All right. I love that. I want to be a star every day.
Yeah, I know you can't. Only probably 6 times a year you can be a star on the Franchise Secrets podcast, the biggest, the best podcast in franchising. I'm sure
Yes.
somebody said that at some point.
Jeez, man.
You did a post. Well, what we want to talk about today,
Yeah.
and it stemmed from a post that you did, which you don't post a lot, but you did, and I loved it, and so I kind of reposted it. But you just kind of like, hey, here's a day in the life of me, and it kind of, I'm on half of those calls with you, and you and I do a lot of brand calls together. I thought it'd be fun to talk about. We won't name any specific brands, but we'll talk about these brands that we're talking to, and kind of share like what we see from our perspective as we at Front Street want to be a part of a brand that can scale, but it needs to be with the right founder, needs to be in the right industry, it needs to be at the right time. They need to have the right moat. They need to have something unique. And we're going to talk about some of these different brands who all have unique stories. There's some that we really like, some that just are not the right fit for us, or maybe they're not the right fit right now. But before we get to that, that post was good, man. What prompted you to all of a sudden want to do a long form, engaging social media post? And that wasn't ChatGPT. I know that.
No, man, it was cool. Like, I don't know. Like, I try to reflect at some point throughout the day. Like, how's my day going? If it's not going great, how do we make it better? But last night it was kind of like reflecting on like the day. I'm a big calendar guy. I put everything in the calendar, personal and business. And I probably look at my calendar on my phone 10 times a day, just so that I can kind of think about, okay, each conversation is so different. I mean, sometimes we're on a fourth call with a brand, sometimes it's the first call, sometimes it's, at the end of the process and we're really thinking about partnering up. And yesterday was just a really unique day. I mean, talk about brands in like opposite corners of the world. Like every single brand we talked to yesterday is just in such a different category. And there's, so many interesting things about like what they're doing. We kind of have like our boxes that we like to check, right? We got a gazillion boxes, but like there's like 3 or 4 that are super important.
So we have this brand kind of checklist, big buckets that they have to check, or it's a big no for us. And there's a bunch of smaller or like probably more advanced buckets or that they have to fit in. When you're starting to look at these brands, do you just immediately go to these big buckets, or like, I mean, you're so good at having conversations and getting into the nitty gritty and weaving around. I don't even know where you're going half the time, but when you talk to a brand initially, and I think this is going to be helpful for, franchise buyers, like how should they be thinking about it? So think about how you are investigating brands, or even coming up with a business idea in general of a brand to start investigating. But Jeff, how do you do it when you are looking at it from the Front Street perspective?
So the first thing is I genuinely just love to listen to the founder about the story, and I like to ask questions about, where they came from, where they are now, where they want to kind of go to in the future. We never really set an agenda, because we really want it to feel organic and natural. Like we're trying to figure out, I mean, what we're really trying to do here, Erik, is figure out like, okay, if we could put the checks in the boxes, that's only one part of the deal. that just kind of keeps us wanting to have more discussions. But at the end of the deal, it's like, we're so in the trenches with the brands that we partner with. And so it's like, okay, it could be a lot of work to get it to market and get traction and grow it. It could be kind of like maybe a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, can we be in the trenches with these founders? But like, are we passionate about the mission of the brand, like the business that they are, who they are? Like, can we be in the trenches with these folks? Because for us, it's not, from a strategic advisory standpoint, this isn't about showing up quarterly, sitting in a boardroom for 2 days, and then saying, hey, we'll see you in 3 months. Like, this is day in, day out, taking advantage of opportunities, overcoming challenges, everything in between. And so, when we get on these calls, whether it's the first call, second call, or whatever, like, pretty quickly we have to identify if some of the things that are most important to us that we believe will put wind in the sails of what we're trying to do here versus the opposite, like headwinds. What can we leverage to grow and scale the business? I mean, that's what we're in. We wake up trying to grow and scale brands through franchising. And so, what brand means to me, and this is kind of like the first box that I like to check, what brand means to me is the emotional connection between a company and the customers they serve. And I'm an emotional guy. You know me. Like, I'm an emotional guy. I mean,
That's
if
a
I'm
fact.
fired up, I'm productive, right? Newsflash, most people that are fired up and passionate about something, they're interested in that. They want more of that. That's who I am. So it's like, it's hard. It's so hard to build brand. And so for me, once again, what that means is that it's that emotional connection between the customer and the company. Does the customer that just experienced the product or the service want to come back in the future? How are they going to speak about the company once they've walked out of the store, once the service technicians walked out of their house, or whatever it is? How are they
Well, I mean, that's
communicating?
interesting because we're talking to some that are very tech driven, some that are like you just talked about. I think some people are going to think brand, customer experience, not home service type stuff. But you just like what you just mentioned is kind of that home servicey type brand. And let's dive into some actual brands that you mentioned in your post. Like you said, spoke to a 30-year-old brand with strong margins and a smart goal. One new franchisee a month, slow, strategic. We can support it. Can't wait to add this brand to our portfolio. So talk about that brand. Like, what was it that got you excited to have a second call with that particular brand, a 30-year-old brand?
Man, do I love this. I love this brand. I love this brand. I love this brand. This is, sometimes I'm wrong, but sometimes I'm right, where I'm like, man, this is just a home run. Look, from the outside perspective, right? It's a pretty boring business. It's a service-based business. It's a Sprinter trailer. I'm going to come and do something for you, right? But what I really get excited about with this particular one, and it's one of the boxes that we like to check, is when there's something really definable around intellectual property, right? Now, intellectual property sometimes could just be you have a process that is super unique to your company and allows your franchisees to succeed. Could be an SOP, could be whatever. We obviously like things that are a little bit more definable. Where we get really excited is, well, first of all, almost everything that we do is service oriented, right? Whether it is like truly like home services or B2B services or brick and mortar services, it's service oriented. I like that. I like the service. And so it doesn't need to be an experiential business. It could be a needs-based business, but like, are they getting 5-star reviews? Like, you should not be franchising your business if you don't have 5-star reviews, right? But more importantly, what I like about this one is the product used to provide the service is proprietary, 100% proprietary. Nobody else in the world has it. And it might be the actual best product in the world to be used for this home service, right? To make it even better, the equipment that is used, in addition to the product, to provide the service is also proprietary. Oh, I love that. Proprietary equipment using proprietary products to deliver an end-to-end service that is replicatable across hundreds of franchisees. And then that makes it that much easier to get the 5-star reviews. Oh, by the way, Erik, there's more. With this particular company, once they get a new customer, they hardly ever lose them. And the customer needs them to come back at minimum every single 3 years, more than likely every 1 to 2 years. So it's one of these businesses where, sure, I come to market, I have a proprietary product, a proprietary equipment. I can deliver an end-to-end service better than anyone else because of those two things, right? I get my 5-star reviews, and now I just have to grind it out for a year, and then boom, all of a sudden, repeat customers. 2 years in, more repeat customers. 3 years in, from 3 years on out, like you're set. Now it's okay. Oh, wait, there's more. The core service of the business generates the highest amount of revenue as a percentage of the pie in the early years. But then there are tag along services that you can bring in when you come back as you grow and scale the business that can allow the revenue to go from a few $100,000 a year to millions. So it's like, I mean, I got off that call. We've had several calls with this company. I mean, I'm going to be crushed if we don't get to partner with this company because I'm like, guys, this is a gold mine. You have the IP, you have the emotional connection between your company and the customer. The proof's in the pudding. It's a home service, but all your reviews are 5-star, and all your customers come back either every year, 2 or 3 years. Like,
so this one, it's a dirty job. Homeowners or customers are not, they can't do it themselves. It would just be a disaster if they tried to do it themselves. So
it'd be impossible.
there's definitely a need here, and you can't let years go by without doing this service. I'm sure we got some.
It's not a DIY type thing.
No. So I love this. I've loved this for a while. This is a service that I have done at my house, and it's a high ticket item. It's not cheap. And I guarantee I only go with a reputable company around here. As a matter of fact, the person that had one near me that has done mine, we just bought a lake house, and they have the lake house next to ours, and they exited that business a number of years ago. So it was a mom and pop, but same industry, and I absolutely love it. So what's interesting about this one too, we talk about Front Street being a non-traditional FSO. Like, what does that really mean? One, it means, we're aligned. Everything that we do is aligned with the brand. So if you're a brand, it's very different than if you're talking to a regular traditional FSO. I think we're the only ones that do what we do, and there's reasons why we do it and can do it. We set up Front Street to be able to be a non-traditional FSO based off of, things that we didn't like in the past. But with that, this brand really couldn't go to a normal FSO. Like,
no,
if an FSO was to look at them, they'd be like, we love this. They would love everything that you and I just described, but then they would say, we want to sell a ton of these things. And that's their job. Franchise brands hire FSOs to sell a bunch of franchises, whether the brand should or shouldn't. Like, if it's set up to scale and to sell a bunch of franchises, they'll sell them. We say no to a lot of brands like that, and for various different reasons. But this brand is different in terms of the founders and goal. So why don't you speak to that a little bit? Because I don't hear this very often.
Yeah. I mean, look, the whole like FSO thing is something I know very well. I kind of built the first full service FSO in the United States of America, right? So I mean, I get it and I know it. The mental shift that I have made since selling my companies 8 years ago was how do you define success in this in the FSO world or in the sales world? It's usually like how many did we sell? Yeah. The shift that happened to me was when I sold to private equity, got on the other side of private equity, and found out what was really, really important, and that's the value of the asset. That's all I'm interested in doing now, is growing the value of the asset, and how you define success is the equity that we are building, is it going up or down? Sales can be accretive to building asset value. Sales can also be the most destructive thing to erode asset value. I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm not saying that sales isn't important, but it doesn't define success. It could be accretive to growing the value of the asset. And in most cases, when it's just done wrong, it is the most counterproductive thing that you could ever do to build asset value, right? Like building equity in the business. Like one thing that I usually say on our calls is I'm like, do you ever get on Zillow to see what the Zestimate of your house is? Well, it's exciting when you find out that your Zestimate is higher than it was 6 months ago. Now, at the end of the day, that means in theory, my house is worth more. I have more equity, right? Now, unless I sell my house, then I can't really take advantage of that equity. But I sure love when my Zestimate is going up, right? What can I do to improve the value of my house, right? Remodel this, fix that, add this, whatever. Tune this up, right? And that's kind of how we think about building the business. What can we add? What can we eliminate that's creating challenges? Where is there opportunity? How do we create the culture? Like that's what it's all about. Is we are only concerned in today, did we grow the asset value? Did we grow the equity in the business that we're working with today? It's another part of what I mentioned in my post yesterday. I was talking to one of our portfolio brand founders, and they're in the middle of the grind. I mean, things are working. Holy cow, are they working? But it's the grind. It ain't gonna get easier anytime soon. We're on that quest to 100 franchisees. I think we have like 40 now, maybe 45. I don't know. But like at the end of the day, what I said is, I'm like, look, do you remember when we first met and we talked about, hey, what do you think the company is worth today? And we said yesterday when I was talking to this individual, I said, what do you? I know we're all going through the grit and grind together right now, and that's the only way I'll do it. We're all rolling up our sleeves every day. This is 24/7. But I said, like, hey, I'm thinking like right now, I think that the asset value of this brand is this much. And this individual said, I think you're right. And all of a sudden you punch it in the calculator and it's like 6 or 7x where we were 2 years ago. But then we also said, hey, look at all the things we're doing. Look at all the plans that we have. Do we both believe, right? Do we both believe that where we are in 3 years is more like 40x where we started? And this individual was like, yeah, I'm aligned with that. I think you were right. All of a sudden, it makes the grit and grind of what we're doing every day that much better. We never talked yesterday about how many franchises we sold, right? We never talked about any of that. All we talked about is, are we building the value of the asset? Are we adding equity to the business, to the brand every single day? And we both got excited, man. It was awesome. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to post as well. You talk to one brand, I'm so jacked up and excited, even though they only want to add 10 to 15 franchisees a year. But I was like, this is so great Because if that's the plan, then the 10 to 15 franchisees, this is like, this will be the greatest award that they ever get. Like, we are going to be so discerning about who gets into this brand because it's awesome. The margins are insane. Proprietary product, proprietary equipment, reoccurring customers, fat net margins, right? So it's like, we got the gold. We have to really be careful about who we deliver the gold to. It's not just, do we believe that they can help us grow and scale the business, and be good on that side? Do they fit the culture, right? Because you could have somebody that's crushing it with KPIs, but they're just poisonous to the culture. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. So, having a few calls like that yesterday just got me fired up, and it just reinforced, like, the long days don't bother me. But if there's checkpoints along the way of any day of calls where I feel like, holy cow, like, it's what we're doing is great. Nobody is doing it like us. Like,
No.
that's so awesome. And we're so attentive that every decision we make always pays homage to the brand. It always pays homage to the mission, which is grow the asset value each and every day.
So I was talking to somebody today that reached out. They've been filled vice presidents roles, president, CEO, COO roles at small and very large brands with hundreds of franchisees to emerging brands with 5 franchisees. So this person's done it all for 15 years in those types of roles, and he's reached out to me. Hey, can I have a call? Now, this is a good friend. I had 4 other people reach out to want to have a call today. And I'm like, text me what you want to talk about and I'll try to help you. But I had a call with this person, and we spent 30 minutes, 45 minutes on a call. And he's like, tell me what you're doing at Front Street, because he's looking for his next things, because he just had a good move. And so he's looking for his next thing. And he's like, wait a second, I didn't know you were doing it that way. And what was really cool, Jeff, is I get to talk to him about all these private conversations that we have internally, the decisions that we're making internally. And he's like, wow, you guys actually do that? You guys, that's how you're building things. This is how you're making decisions. And really it's like enterprise value brand building. But what that translates to is, like you said, in addition to a good culture, is like, how do we help these franchisees? It's really a lot of franchisee focused help. And we won't get into the nitty gritty of this one, but we made a decision for one of our brands to help them in a massive way, with some outside help with a ninja, and the only ones that are losing monetarily is Front Street. Like, nobody else knows about this, but we are losing at the Front Street level monetarily to bring in somebody that can have a meaningful impact. And, I just wish more people in franchising would just make really good decisions that are not just bottom line focus for whoever it is, whether it's the brand or, the PE company or whatnot. But it just got me thinking, like, we really are doing things unique, and it's fun to be able to have outside conversations and tell people, friends, what we're doing, and to hear their reactions to it reminds me that that's very unique what we're doing.
I mean, that's a great point. I mean, it financially, that took away from us. I don't care, because I always say, look, that's how I think every decision that I make in this whole brand building world through franchising is, will this decision add value to the brand? Will it help us build asset value, equity faster, right? By me saying yes, am I paying homage to the brand by making the right decision, even if it means less financially for me down the road? I don't care about that. I want to build asset value. I want to build equity. I want to build brand. I want to build that emotional connection between the customer and the company. Like that's, if you just focus on that, the money will work itself out, or it won't. But at least you've done the right thing, and the right thing is always doing what's right for the brand, period.
That's how business partners should think, by the way. Like, you shouldn't be thinking about yourself as a business partner. You should be thinking about the company and make decisions for the brand, for the company. And that's it. That's when you know you have good business partners. Or maybe you have a bad business partner.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisor and you're frustrated that you're not awarding as many franchises as you thought you would, this is the reason I created the Franchisor Mastermind. If you want access to the information, the techniques that the best franchise sales organizations are using to award franchises, and you want what mature brands have with their playbook of having happy, successful franchisees that grow the right way, then you might want to check out the Franchisor Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections. They want the playbook to achieve both short-term and long-term success. They want to increase enterprise value in their brand. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
I want to shift gears to another brand. I don't know that it was on for this one. Consulted a health and wellness concept doing about $300K per month from one location. We advised patients, don't franchise yet, dial it in. I had another one today that is I won't even get into that one that I emailed. Let's stick to this one. What can you tell us about the one that you advised patients and don't franchise yet? And by the way, do I know this one?
I don't know. No, you weren't on the call. I've had a couple calls. It's a big category. And they have two locations. One location will do 3.5 to 4 million this year. The other location is maybe going to get to 1 million. It's awesome. It's in a big category. I think they can win, but it was like, look, if we're going to work together, let's spend like a year of time, getting the one that's barely cracking into 1 million up to 4 million a year. Then we got something, right? And so I was like, look, you are the reason why the first location is doing, upwards of 4 million. But when you tried to open your second location, it was tough. You can't be in two places at one time. The first location is still kind of etching up and you're working on the second one. But like proof of concept is like, hey, let's get that other one to 4 million first. And part of it is it breaks my heart when somebody's like, I know, but I just want to franchise it because I'm tired. I think that franchising will give me energy. And I was like, wow, I promise you it won't. I was like, I always, you heard me say it 1,000 times, like, first rule of franchising is don't franchise your business. I heard somebody else was using that out in the field. I'm like, damn it, that person heard it from me like 10 years ago. But that is the first rule, And so I'm like, I promise you it will not give you energy. I promise you, like, if you go into it and you say, I'm tired, but this is going to invigorate me and I'll get my energy back, it'll do the opposite. It'll do the opposite. 100%. It is so hard to package it up, launch, get traction, consistently add to that and get to 100 franchisees. Oh my God, is that so hard? If you're exhausted now, then you're going to be 10 times exhausted. You're really going to have a point where you want to throw the towel in on everything. And I'm like, the mindset, maybe another podcast. We could spend a whole conversation just around the mindset. You know, what's the right mindset as a franchisee? What's the right mindset as a franchisor? What's the right mindset as an agency or vendor to franchisors? What's the right mindset for fran dev people? Like, and that's the important thing here is it's like, wow, like you have to, and these people had a lot of grit and grind. I mean, they've been building this business for like 20 years, but I'm like, I don't know if the mindset's right. Like if you're tired now and you think that this is the shot in the arm, I'm like, it's going to be the opposite. Like this is
guaranteed, Jeff, and you've heard it before, they'll come back. I'm sure it wasn't with this. I don't know if it was or wasn't, but there'll be times when we're having this exact same scenario, but they'll say, oh, so-and-so said this is perfect and I should be franchising. And that's my answer to everything. And there are way too many people out there that would tell this person to franchise it. And then life is going to be really good. There's way too many people that will do that.
And by the way, by no means did I say that this concept wasn't franchisable. Like I wanted to make that very clear with them. That was like, look, this is so franchisable. Look, you have a location that's doing like $4 million, netting 7 figures. Like, I'm not telling you it's not franchisable. I'm just telling you it's not franchisable. I wouldn't take this to market right now. Let's get that second one to 4 million. Then we could say, hey, here's the story. I had one doing 4 million, one doing a little bit less than $1 million. Met with Front Street, said, hey, can you be my strategic advisor? We knuckled down for over a year, got that second location to 300 grand plus per month, then packaged it up the right way, went out to the world and told that story. Holy cow, here's all the lessons we learned in the last year of working together. And the thing just goes vertical north, right? Like that year might seem like an eternity to this person. Like, oh my God, I'm already tired. You're telling me I got to work harder for another year before we do this? Yeah, you do. Because if you do it the right way, like, look, I tell people, I'm like, more than half of businesses out there, like, there's no growth. It's either flat or in decline. Okay? Most small businesses, right? If you're lucky, you have incremental growth every year, 5, 10%, right? That's if you're lucky. Now, if you're a rock star, you have linear growth, 20% year over year, up and to the right without a fail. That's if you're a rock star, right? But the quan, the magic, the genius is when you can bend the growth curve due north, right? So who cares if it's going to take a year or two to launch? You have a franchisable concept, great margins, you've figured out a lot. Let's go get this second location to the same run rate as the first one. Let's build a lot of stuff together. Let's learn a lot of stuff together. And then when we go to market, we want to outperform incremental growth. We want to outperform linear growth. We want to think loss mitigation first and protect this asset 7 ways from Sunday. And then boom, if we do it the right way, we get northern growth. So who cares about a year or two trying to get ready for that? Because the alternative is the putt-putt scenario of incremental growth at best, right? So, I mean, that's the way we think about it.
So we talked to another brand. We won't get into this one, but massive technology play, comes from a technology background, like revolutionizing an industry that's been around forever. Everybody would recognize the industry if we played a tune. They would be like, oh, that's what it is. But they've got technology that's very disruptive and very efficient for franchisees. So we love technology plays. But you said another one. You said you reviewed a service brand doing about 12 million annually from a single corporate location. They've grown 10 to 15% per year over the last 3 years. Infrastructure, it's there, but we won't scale it until it's ready. Can you speak to that one for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Like, not every day do we talk to a 1-unit owner doing 8 figures. God, would our life be so much easier if that's the only people that we talk to and we could talk to 10 people like that per day? So, like, who doesn't want to get excited about that, right? Who doesn't want to get excited about that? Love obviously the man, I hate these like financial acronyms, but this is one that's big, like total addressable market, TAM. TAM on this industry is like more billions than I can ever count, right? And what I love about this guy is he figured everything out in the last 5 years with no background, right? I mean, he was kind of on the manufacturing side, so he kind of knew something, but on the service side, he had never gotten on that. And what I like about it is he's got the right mix. You know, he's got the B2C business, he's got the B2B business. He has a retail component, a wholesale component. So I mean, to find somebody that has a very well diversified pie of services and revenue channels. I mean, we've talked to 15 different brands in this category, and this was the most well-rounded pie chart I've ever seen, right? So he has a way to be very productive when the economy is good. He has a way to be very productive when the economy is bad because of the diversification of revenue and services. And he's just like, we're like, most people don't get to 10 million in your category. Most don't get to 5. Most don't even get to 2 or 3. You know, how'd you do it? And like, just another grit and grind guy, right? He's just been 24/7 for 5 straight years. And he focuses on talent. God, I can't underestimate how important that is. He's like, look, man, I need some needle movers in some critical areas. And he's like, I know I can do this. I know I can do the service good. Okay. But the people that are the stakeholders at my company, they're the best in the business. They're the best in the business. I overpay my people because I have rock star employees, best in category. And I invest so much time and energy into training and educating and supporting and creating the right culture with these people. And I pay them more than anybody else would pay them. And because I understand the value of talent and I put talent first. And by just doing that, in 5 years, I went from 0 to 12 million a year. I mean, that's awesome. And holy cow, like, not very often do you talk to a franchisor that says, when you say, hey, what are you best in the world at? They say, I'm best in the world at hiring, training, managing, growing my talent force, the stakeholders that work in the trenches with me to build this company. I don't hear that very often. And have objective, definable pieces of how to measure that. Erik, how many times have we heard somebody say that with conviction? I'm like, holy cow, that can win. That translates. That's how you open up a business in a new market with no name recognition, because he's got a way to source, onboard, train, and develop world-class talent as stakeholders in the business to help him grow and scale every year. I was like, I've never heard anybody say it that way. And that is such a POD, point of differentiation. Once again, like, yesterday was just, I was very inspired yesterday by a lot of these calls. And that's what led me to say, okay, I'm going to get out my pen and go to LinkedIn. I mean, I do maybe a post a month, if that. But yesterday just got me going because I was just blown away. I was excited. Like, and all of these businesses we're talking about are so different. some are brick and mortar, some are home services, some are B2B services, some are mobile operators of something else. I don't just want to get into it, but
No,
some are
don't get into it.
enrichment. Like it's just so cool. Yesterday was just a day where, like, we talk about like IP, intellectual property. It's just like these people, right? So one company we just talked about has proprietary products and proprietary equipment that allow them to provide a service that can't be beat. Okay. But what I just described with this other guy, right? He doesn't have a magic car. He doesn't have none of that. His magic was I know how to source, onboard, train, and develop a world-class talent pool of stakeholders to help me grow my business. I'm sorry, that is intellectual property because nobody else has ever told me that before.
What I think is what a takeaway for buyers out there or even franchisees, you heard Jeff describe these different brands in ways that you probably would never describe a brand if you saw it in a news article or you saw it on a top 10 list somewhere. Like, you wouldn't have that level of knowledge or that way or that mindset of thinking about these different brands. And that's one of the things I want buyers to, and franchisees, think about buying more franchises, or maybe franchisees that are part of a brand right now, start thinking about it differently. Start thinking about what business you're really in, who you really serve, why you serve them, what your points of differentiation are, because that will change how you do business. And it'll probably change the way some people actually buy a franchise. Like, these are the things that we look for. You might see some of our brands like Go Glow or Hello Sugar or Modern Pure. You might look at it from the outside and be like, oh, this is their industry. But what you don't know is like the tip of the iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg. We see everything underneath it. And there's a reason we got involved with some of these brands. And there's a reason we'll get involved with some of these brands that we'll be announcing later this year and next year and so on and so forth. So I want, as you're listening to this, start thinking about buying franchises differently, understand the things that you just can't read about. And then also, if you are a franchisee right now, start to think about your brand a little bit differently. And I think it'll probably change a bit of how you are actually successful and building enterprise value as a franchisee. Jeff, any last bits of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about it, like, in a long and short way. We just described our 4 biggest boxes that we want to check. Number 1, is there an emotional connection between the customer and the company? That's what I call brand. Now, what we want is raving fans as customers. They go on, they give 5-star reviews. They come back with frequency. They talk about it to others. They post on social media. Look, you can have a home service brand where you post on social media, like the customer posts on social media. It doesn't have to be brick and mortar, okay? But that's the first box, right? Is the customer a raving fan? Because if they are, we can build brand. The definition of building, brand is the emotional connection between the customer and the company. So that's the first box. Second box is what do we have to work with here from an IP standpoint? What kind of intellectual property do we have? Is there a proprietary product? Is there a proprietary equipment? Is there a proprietary process, right? So in one instance today, I talked about proprietary products and equipment, but on the other one, the proprietary nature of what this guy had was he has figured out the talent problem. Labor is hard out there, but he knows how to, like I said, source, onboard, train, develop, build culture, and build a world-class talent pool, and nobody ever leaves his company, right? So these things around IP, so is there definable IP, right? I just described some of that, right? Second box. How do we leverage this IP to build the business? Well, then you go to the third piece, which is the labor component. Labor is tough, right? So if I have proprietary equipment and proprietary products that are the best in the world, it makes it easier as a technician to perform my service and get a 5-star review, which I get a bonus for, right? people like bonuses. So if I can leverage IP as a technician to deliver a more consistent and better service, I get the 5-star review, I get a bonus, I ain't leaving, right? The other guy had the proprietary process around building a ninja talent pool, never loses any employees, right? That sounds pretty good. That makes the labor piece easier as a franchisee. But then the fourth one is the grit and grind of the founder, right? What is the mindset in coming in this?
Well, that's it. Hopefully that helps some of you that are looking at brands start to look at them a little bit differently beyond just surface level, what you see in an advertisement somewhere or in a Google ad. It helps you go below the surface, and it really gives you an understanding of what we look for at Front Street.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.